I'm of the conviction that in large part the secret to happiness is to keep oneself busy on a work of passion. And I think very largely I managed to achieve that in my life. I write almost every single day. When I don't write, I slip into patterns of bad thinking and feeling that I'm useless, worthless, a failure, and so on and so forth. And all these terrible things sort of bubble up in my unconscious, all this kind of self-critical stuff and this self-analysis stuff that's really really unhelpful sort of percolates into the foreground of my mind, and that comes about when I'm not doing something, when I'm not actively pursuing something like writing, or I look through the writing that I've done in the past, and it's always a first draft whenever I do this, and I think that it's shit. But then again, all first drafts are usually shit anyway, so it doesn't really matter or shouldn't matter. And yeah, I perplex myself too often, I think, with stuff that doesn't matter, or thinking back to past events and bad shit I've done in the past that's really not all that bad, that doesn't matter anyway. And I don't know, stuff like that. And it just percolates to the foreground of my mind, causes lethargy, causes confusion, causes discontentment, causes my mind to be skewed and distorted and focus too much on the negative rather than on the positive. And today I've got 2,000 words of a novel done, a novel that I've been trying to write for many years. I've been in this kind of creative bottleneck for several years at this point, whereby I've been working on about 5 different projects all at the same time and bringing nothing really to completion. And now I'm focused on just one project, and I think I've decided on which project I'm going to focus on and work on. And I'm in a happier place now because I achieved something today. I think it's very, very important in life that we manage to achieve something every single day. I got 3 poems or so written today, and I churn out poetry just like I do a lot of poetry writing. I don't know why really. It's just kind of something to keep my hand in with writing. If I don't do any prose writing in any given day, I might do some poetry writing, and I find the freedom that you have with poetic form very very enticing, very very interesting. Going from free verse to different sorts of forms which are more regimented and more structured, or rhyming and non-rhyming poetry. Um, I read this Lawrence Ferlinghetti poem earlier today, and that inspired a poem that I thereafter wrote, got written. They mean the same thing. Yeah, and I feel good. I feel elated. I feel joyful. I feel like I've got, yeah, something good achieved. I think I managed to get something decent put down onto paper and then out onto social media like I do with the rest of my poems. So that's what I think the secret to a happy, fulfilling life is, or fulfilled life. I don't by any stretch of the imagination think that money buys happiness. I think that that's a fallacy. I think that's a false assumption, and I'm quite poor at the moment, but nonetheless, I'm quite happy at the moment. Because I'm working on works of passion, motherfucker, getting stuff done, getting my life together, making little incremental movements towards great objectives, like getting the novels written that I want to get written, getting the non-fiction written that I want to get written, getting the poetry written that I want to get written, even though it just kind of spills out of me when I'm kind of in a malaise and not really knowing what I want to do, and kind of just bumbling around and in a kind of confused state, about to fall into a state of lethargy and negativity or whatever. That's when it comes out of me. And I think that's probably quite healthy on a level. I think on a level you do also need the negative in your life to kind of wake you up to the positive things you weren't paying attention to, or something like that. Possibly. But yeah, I mean, secret to happiness. Um, there's all sorts of things actually that do play into happiness, I think, other than keeping oneself busy with works of passion, but keeping oneself busy with works of passion is a large part of it, probably. I think definitely there's physical health, and that's very important. Eating well, doing some exercise here and there. I suppose that's part of it. then like what I do with writing, I read a lot as well because you have to as a writer. That reading is incredibly fundamental to the craft of being a writer because you first and foremost obviously need to study other people's writing to have any real hope of getting good at it. Um, and if you don't read like often, why do you want to be a writer in the first place? Do you see what I mean by that? Like you're probably not going to go very far as a writer if you don't read often and read a varied amount of work. So I try to do that all the time, every day. But days do go by in my life where I don't read anything, and those are the worst days. The worst days when I don't read or write anything. And like mostly, I think we need to have a sense of fulfilling vocation in life. Otherwise, we set ourselves on a course towards misery, and that's where things come apart. Obviously, is it not? When we founder upon the rocks of self-pity and miserableness and thinking that our lives are shit and that everything's shit and that it will be shit forever, instead of seeing that flickering glimmer of hope that we all should be chasing in our lives towards newer, better things, newer, higher pinnacles, great achievements, and all this sort of stuff that really ought to motherfucking motivate us. Yet too often doesn't. And too often we allow ourselves to slide into the trap of depression and into the wells of negativity that might be bottomless for all we know, that might terminate on a nothingness or even in our premature death by suicide for all we're aware. And part of good mental health is, yeah, having passion, I think, and pursuing objectives that we find meaningful. And it's all this Viktor Frankl, man's search for meaning stuff, and that does ring true. So I thought I'd share that with you today, just for your own benefit, or maybe for mine, because I'm just looking for something to do in this moment now. And maybe I'll get back to you later on with some poetry. I haven't decided yet, but we'll see how it goes.